enterprises. I'm just curious, have you been able to follow up, just a moment, Edgery, have you been able to follow up, with the members of the National Assembly, or maybe even the advisor, the President's Special Advisor on National Assembly matters, to find out with the Senate and the House precisely what is the matter, what is going on, what are the challenges that the National Assembly could be having if by March, after a promise was made that if you submitted by October, let us assume that you're late by 1 month, by March, you're not hearing anything about the passage of the 2018 budget. Well,
as I said, that's what we, for us, it's our daily engagement. So, we wake up every day trying to figure out that. But I know also that, apart from this challenge, even in terms of the processes of the National Assembly, last year, the National Assembly came out with a major innovation, which was the public hearings on the budgets, and that really improved Nigeria's ratings in terms of the open budget index and initiative, and so we assumed that is now standard practice that they were going to. But for the 2018 budget, there hasn't been a public hearing yet. So even in terms of the internal processes that we are waiting to this thing. Unfortunately, we simply can only.
So you haven't heard anything? You haven't heard any reason why there could be a delay, aside the issues that they had with the government-owned enterprises budget?
That's all that we are aware of. That I'm aware of, and last week there was the question of some MDAs or some ministers not listening, and we've asked to be advised which specific ones, so we can also intervene.
Not doing what? Not
showing up. So we've asked to be advised who these are, so the minister can take that up as well.
Director General, I want to go back to last year, because when we looked at the kind of the handshake agreement and the signing of the 2017 budget, it was in the Vice President's office when he was acting president. I remember Senate President Saraki was there, Speaker of the House was there, and part of the agreement, I recall, was that there would be a series of environments that would go through, that ultimately, of course, did not go through. When you talk about the executive and the legislature and the relationship between the two, and you look at kind of when the time frame, even going into the 2018 budget preparation, of when the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy papers were submitted, there's quite a large lag period between then and even the laying of the budget. And I want to ask you, why do you think that always seem to be coming from one particular side?
Well, really, from my perspective, my goal is not to take blames. There's probably enough blames to go around. But basically, I'm focused on solutions.
Right,
so
but what are the issues is what I'm asking. Not blame, but what are the issues and the solutions?
Well, right now, as I said, the only issue that's specifically brought to my attention is the matter of the government-owned enterprises. And as I said, we stepped in to resolve that, to make sure all of them provide the details that this thing out. But we also make the point that a few or some number of government-owned enterprises haven't submitted their budgets shouldn't be to hold up the entire nation. We have made the case sufficiently for why the country needs to return to a predictable fiscal year. That's how all proper, nations are governed. The private sector takes its cue from government, and so if government's, fiscal plans remain, indeterminate, it creates, challenges with the other sectors that need to respond. Don't forget that the entire federal government budget is only about 6% of our GDP. And so really, its major significance is in signaling action. It's you know, and then ultimately it's the private sector that needs to spend the money that will move this economy forward.
When you look at, for example, going into this new budget cycle, we've heard from the senior special advisor to the President on National Assembly Matters, Ita, that this budget will be passed before the end of this month. March 31 is the date that he gave. Based on all of your assessments, is that in line with reality?
There's no, I mean, today is only the 7th of March, so there's no reason why that cannot be achieved if we set our minds to do so. Yes, I mean, that gives over 3 weeks from today.
There still seems to be a gap in the sense that when you hear from members of the executive, such as yourself, it seems like there's no issue. That look, we've given them everything that they need. But when you hear from the legislature, it's a completely different story, a completely different world. They're saying this is missing and this person's not appearing. And so how do you bridge those gaps? How do you, because it's like two different realities, how do you bridge them so that progress can be made on those fronts?
Well, that's really what we serve as the bridge between the National Assembly and the agencies of government. So we receive the budget proposals of these agencies, we put them together, we load them, and we present them. And so if there are any issues also, we expect to then be carried along as to what those issues are and to enable a resolution. But as it is, we only deal with the issues that we are aware of.
I'm just curious. Before now, we had seen, not with this budget, we had seen some wranglings between members of the executive and the legislature. There's always that who has the power of the purse, who has the power of appropriation. Should we just pass the budget as it is? Should we just, take the figures as they are without adjusting them? Can we adjust without the input of the executive? We've seen those kinds of wranglings in times past, and sometimes it gets a bit heated between the executive and the legislature. Have you had occasion to be, invited to, answer any questions concerning certain figures, or do you hold any apprehensions that the budget that you have sent through might not come out the way you have thought it will come out?
Well, first of all, even the budget office itself has a budget, and which it has to also defend before the National Assembly. And it's only to that extent that we as budget office have been invited to defend our own budget.
So you have been invited?
Yes, but in terms of then being invited with respect to the budgets of the other agencies, we haven't been. We have, of course, offered that given the role that we play in putting the budget together, it might be helpful if we were then invited, and we've indicated that we can send a representative, the budget office, to attend all of the other hearings and meetings on the budgets of other agencies, so we can get a first-hand, knowledge of whatever challenges there are, and therefore proactively try and address them. But even in moving forward the process, but it's the prerogative of the National Assembly to determine how they, what process they follow. They haven't accepted our offer to...
I'm curious, how conversant is the budget office of the budgets of all the other ministries and departments and agencies? Are you very conversant with their figures? You go through them after they submitted them?
Yes, of course. First we set out the call circular every year, and we set the rules, the guidelines. When they make their submissions, we review to ensure compliance with the guidelines. And as I've had occasion to say to some people, the budget in its full level of granularity is about a 7,000-page document. We have to review, all of that. What the public gets to see at the end of the day may be a 4-page appropriation bill, or at best a 2,000-page, level of detail. But there's a lot more beyond that.